Okay, so this you could do the same. You have the infrastructure, so the question is how to start really with it. In Estonia, we have already done. I mean, the last data that I looked at was showing that we had given 250 million digital signatures for a 1 million population. It's not too bad. And we are using these ID cards that you also have, also for digital identification. I mean, just to enter the portals and so on. And as such, we have used it as Estonians like 392 million times. So it is really a lot used, and it does all the wonders that is said. So you should, I hope, do very soon the same thing. But now the second thing that changes public administration really, or not just public administration, but the way we do business, is something that we call an X-road. But it's just a question of interoperability and what you do with interoperability, how it works. And here is an example of Estonian X-road, how it works and what it means also for that.
Let's be honest, interacting with public offices is tedious. Data is gathered into compartmentalized systems, which makes changing information difficult. So the pieces of information concerning you seldom fit together properly or easily. That's the reason we have to present the same forms and papers over and over again, and always during business hours between 9 and 5. The X-Road changes everything. For more than a decade, it's been enabling different public sector data systems to understand each other, helping them communicate and synchronize information. It is digital, fast, and secure. As various offices can communicate directly with one another, there's no risk of information overflow, even with many users and even more data. When you use your digital signature to authenticate your data, the information you provide has validity and carries evidential value, and you can be sure the new information will work seamlessly with what's already there. All the pieces of information are stored in separate and secure data systems, but you only need to input the information once. When citizens provide their country with enough information, various processes can be automated, allowing for better, more efficient services. For example, when Tom and his wife had a baby, the personal identification code of their child was generated automatically, and they didn't even have to file a separate application for child benefits from the state. After a few years, when their child is ready to begin school, the X-Road can independently notify the proper offices, leaving them to enjoy it without the needless interruption of bureaucracy. The X-Road can also be connected to other similar systems, which means data networks can effortlessly be expanded and the international exchange of information simplified. Of course, you still have complete control over your information, accessible to you at any time. The X-Road, saving the state money and letting public offices concentrate on their main functions so you can sit back and live your life. Simple.
Okay, let's leave the technology as such aside, but what is interesting really is, I think when I compare Estonian developments with Georgian, you have been too successful creating this public service agency. I mean, people used to go there. In our case, we actually don't really want to go anywhere. We just want to move on, and let me show you just how it is. I mean, we created we created something what we call a e-government infrastructure, using, I mean, all these questions of access, digitalized information, formalized exchange, and electronic identity. And then we can now describe Estonia really with putting E or M or I, whatever, in front of everything. What it means is just that everything is interconnected already. The data flows between not only the government institutions, but also the government and private institutions. And as a citizen, I can, for example, authorize banks to get data from authorized government sources. So it basically leaves us out of using the paper again. So it is much more easier, and what is fun, you don't have to be in Estonia to do it, or you don't have to go, I'm sorry to say, to the wonderful public service office to do it. You can just do it anywhere you have internet access. So I'm not going to talk much about it, just thinking. When we started to think about this reform of government as such in 1990s, people were thinking, okay, let's give computers to the civil servants, and then the civil servants will communicate with the back office. But there was no change really what happened to the way people got the services. Then with this one-stop shop approach, people really do feel the change. That is what happened with your public service agencies. That's why it is so successful. You just have to go once, and bureaucrats do all the work behind the scenes. But the ideal, how we saw it, and what we have been trying to implement in Estonia, why we make so much fuss about the digital identity and pushing not only us but the European Union to adopt the eIDAS regulations. And by the way, just a couple of weeks ago, Japan announced that they are going to introduce this e-identity the way Estonia did. Our ideal was really not to get bureaucrats totally, to be unemployed, but for them to have more better work to do. And we as citizens could communicate directly with the government wherever we are, and so we don't have to cause traffic jams. Of course, this movement is actually quite long, so, and it is also interdependent. When you want to make changes in the public sector, why technology and technology companies are not really succeeding that well? Because the web of these interdependencies. But let's talk about it another time. And also what is important is a time factor, because you know there are actually no killer applications in public sector. It just takes time. Today we have 98% of Estonians paying taxes online, but it took us 10 years to get to the 90%. But the political life cycle usually is 4 years. If you start in the first year, you don't have that much to go on. What is important is that there has to be the leadership and political will. There have to be fixed info-political principles, good telecom infrastructure, and high level of e-banking, and supporting legal fiscal frameworks, interoperable ICT architecture. You have much of it. You should be really taking the next leap. Our last leap has been to help other countries also, where countries don't really create the digital identity, or companies haven't been so successful creating it to their people. Then we offer now digital identity, kind of borderless, we call it Estonian e-residency. You can apply to it, look it up in the web. It's quite interesting concept of trying to really redesign the way governments, we understand government and what can and should be done. So when you want to look on more e-Estonia things, you'll find it in e-Estonia homepage. I will finish here, and thank you very much.